as proud Brits, the possibility to say, we lost the Battle of Hastings, but we won the World Cup in 1966. This is the we, generation spanning we, what makes up the ethnocultural identity. It connects you to King Arthur, Henry V, Richard Lionheart, and it allows you to be proud of Shakespeare, the pre-Raphaelites, Hume, Thomas More, Orwell, and even the Beatles. And this generation spanning we, of course, can take in new impulses. It can assimilate and integrate new influences. But it cannot withstand a complete replacement. And today we see a rupture. We see all these people on the streets. When I was walking through London, I saw all these Arabic scriptures on the shops. I saw the face of those people. I knew those people are not British. They don't feel British. They have a completely different identity. They are not part of this generation spanning. And whenever you have immigration into a country, you need to talk and think about the capacities of assimilation and of integration in that country. But our politicians didn't do that. We stumbled into a social experiment where we are the laboratory rats, and as we see, the outcome of it is catastrophical. And that's why, to preserve ethnocultural identity, we want to put an end to multiculturalism, and we want to prolong this history of our generation spanning we. And a very important part of generation identity, by defending our ethnocultural identity, we do not repeat the mistakes of ideologies from the 20th century, because we are ethno-pluralists. It means we respect all the cultures, we don't hate different cultures, we just want to preserve our own. We respect the others, but we love our own. Just as you love your own children, respect other children. When you love your own children, your own wife and girlfriend more than other wives, which I hope you do, of course, it also doesn't mean that you hate the others. And that's the same approach that we have for our cultures. And we want a world of 1,000 peoples and cultures, a real diverse world. And that's why, as Alain de Benoit, an important thinker of the French New Right, said, our enemies are not different identities, but the system that destroys all identities. Globalism that wants to turn us into dull consumers, into genderless and rootless drones who only work, consume and pay taxes, who want to destroy the national sovereignty and create a mixture of peoples and identities that are easy to rule and that are impossible to form one unique will, and basically destroying freedom and politics and national sovereignty. These are our enemies. And that's why we also focus our activism against them and not against immigrants who are basically also just chess figures of globalization and of in this process of the great replacement. You can clap if you want, if you like this. Yeah, feeling like Jeb Bush now. So, as you see, we want real diversity. We want real ethnocultural diversity. We want a heterogeneous world of homogeneous people. And as ethnopluralists, we also don't want to repeat the mistakes of the old school nationalists in Europe, who also created a lot of border wars and problems. And that's why at the moment it's possible that we have members of Generation Identity Ireland, together with members of Generation Identity Britain and England, in one room without any beating or brawl, up to now. And we as Austrians, we team up together with Italians and Czech people, and at the summer camp every year in France, people whose grandfathers have fought against each other, shot each other in the trenches, are now fighting together in the European spirit of the Battle of Lepanto, of the Battle of Poitiers, and of the Battle of Vienna, to fight against a common enemy, this Islamic invasion of massive immigration, and the leftist ideology in our own countries. And that's one of the biggest successes. And that's why we are real Europeans, because it's very easy to call yourself European when you're actually a cosmopolite, internationalist, and have given up all of your roots. But when you're a proud Brit, or a proud German, proud Frenchman, and European at the same time, that's the only way when you're real European. That's why we are actually the real ones who are fighting for diversity and for Europe. And I think that the idea of a united Europe is only alive today in the spirit of generation identity. To ensure our goals, to end massive immigration and Islamization, to stop the great replacement, and to start a policy of de-Islamization and remigration that reverts the flows of migration, that reverts the push and pull factors, and basically brings us back into the state where we were before this crazy social experiment by the name of multiculturalism was set in place. We need to fight against the ideology of the left, and we need to overcome, as I said, this prison of fear and the leftist cultural hegemony. But the difference between Generation Identity and a lot of other right-wing groups is that we also actually have a plan to get there, and this plan is based on the thinkings of Antonio Gramsci and Alain de Benoit, and the key phrase here is metapolitics. Just a short question in the room: whom of you has never before heard the term metapolitics? Be honest, it's not a shame. So, I also didn't know what it was before I started really getting into politics. Metapolitics is the understanding of the power structure in a democracy. The power is not really in the parliament. The power is in the newspapers and the media. It's a culture. That's where the real power lies. They create the so-called overtone window, the frame for the open and public debate. And if you move this, then at the same time you also move the parliament, you move the churches, you move the universities, you move everything. So if you really want to change something, you need to change metapolitics, which means you need to change the public opinion and the public debate about those issues. And that's what we're aiming at with Generation Identity. It's not about elections, it's not about votes, it's about ideas. It's about injecting terms and ideas into the public debate, and it's about attacking and destroying words who are serving as pillars for the ruling ideology. Words like diversity or integration were like mythical, magical phrases, but essentially mean nothing. And we need to put words in like remigration or Fortress Europe that was propagated by a movement 3 years ago and then overtaken by the Austrian Minister of Interior. And that's how we fight, and that's how we're doing it, with actions, with activism, with strong images and new words. We are changing, as an avant-garde, the public debate. With provocation, we are pushing the overtone window further and further to open a debate about the issue of massive immigration, Islamization, the great replacement, and remigration. Because before there is no open debate about these issues, there will also be no laws and reforms changing them. Without an open debate, there cannot be political change. So metapolitics is the key to politics, and the key to metapolitics is activism. And that's why we started to get active with Generation Identity. As I said, all our goals, stopping massive immigration, stopping Islamization, they boil down to one simple goal. It's the open debate without fear. It's the possibility of having a differing opinion without paying the price of huge social costs, and that's what we're fighting for, and that's what we are, what I want to achieve. And until this is not achieved, I will never stop fighting. I want that everybody in Great Britain, doesn't matter which job he has, it can be the leader of an opera house, a university professor, has the right to completely freely utter his opinion about everything without being afraid to lose his job. That's our right, and that's what the politicians are promising us with the freedom of opinion, and this right is what we have to claim. And until this state is not realized in Great Britain, as well as in France, as in Germany, nobody can say that everything is lost, or that the people are willingly giving up their country, and nobody can say that Europe is dying. Europe is not dying, Europe is being murdered by this elite who is banning an open and free debate. And that's why we have to fight for this open and free debate, and until this open and free debate is not established, nothing is lost and nothing is decided. That's what we're fighting for as Generation Identity. And our means and our way to get there is, as I said, activism, because with activism we are occupying and creating stages that the left is denying us. They have conquered all of the important nodes and key points to create a metapolitics and to influence and to dominate the public opinion and the public discourse. And since we are in the role of opposition, since we are partisans of Metapolitics, we need to create more creative tactics to create attentions. And we've taken this from leftists, actually, from organizations like Greenpeace, from people like Gene Sharp and Gandhi, and our goal is to scandalize the so-called normality, and with our actions shock people into awareness, shock people into getting active, and basically being like visitors from the future. Because I think if I could send the images and the videos that I took today with my smartphone from the state of London now, back in time, 30, 40 years, people would see them, they would create a very big shock for the population. It would change their mind, it would change politics. But the gradual change is the biggest danger. So our actions need to be shocking people into awareness, into giving attention about what is actually happening. Our actions are always non-violent, but stunning. Some of them are bold and polarizing. Some of them are creative and funny, but all of them are interesting, and none of them are boring. And that's what made us famous in Europe now, and that's how we basically caught and hold the attention of the media, even of the mainstream media, for years, and that's how we make the mainstream media basically working for us.